You know, it's funny how ingrained some habits can become. For me, especially living here in LA at 23, drinking felt normal. Weekend nights out, grabbing beers with friends, maybe a drink to unwind after a long week building my Amazon business. It was just part of the social fabric, part of my routine. I wouldn't have called myself an alcoholic, not even close, but it was definitely there. But lately, I've been thinking more about it. You see stats about Gen Z drinking less.
I don't drink.
Research shows that Gen Z drinks 20% less per capita than millennials.
This growing sober curious or anti-alcohol movement, and it makes you wonder, right? How much was alcohol actually adding to my life, and what was it potentially taking away? That little voice got louder, especially after the holidays last year. Let's just say it was a very merry season, and heading into the new year, I felt sluggish, bloated, like I needed a serious reset. So I decided to try something pretty radical for me. 100 days, no alcohol at all. I wanted to strip it all away and see what was left. What would change? How would I feel? This wasn't about proving anything, just pure selfish curiosity. Now, full disclosure, I'd seen videos like this before. People quitting for 30, 60, 100 days, talking about these massive life transformations. And honestly, a part of me was cynical. You know how it is. You accomplish something difficult, you invest time and energy, and there's this internal pressure, maybe even subconscious, to feel like you got this huge dramatic payoff. It helps justify the effort and makes for a better story, right? So I kind of assumed there was some exaggeration going on. I mentally prepared myself for maybe feeling slightly better, but nothing earth-shattering. And the first week or two wasn't exactly a walk in the park. It wasn't like I had terrible physical withdrawals, but the habit was still strong. Those moments with friends where someone offers you a beer, or that Friday night feeling when a drink just feels right. Yeah, there were definitely a few times where I thought, man, I could really use a drink right now. The biggest initial challenge was navigating social situations. LA has a huge bar and club scene, and suddenly those environments felt different, less appealing. And honestly, without alcohol, a lot of these experiences didn't even seem fun anymore. So I started consciously shifting my environment, suggesting different activities with friends, maybe hanging out at places where drinking wasn't the main focus. It forced me to be more intentional about how and where I spent my time. It also made me confront the whole social crutch aspect head on. Facing social situations sober forces you to deal with any underlying awkwardness or insecurity directly without that liquid courage. I actually watched a video by Alex Becker recently talking about this exact thing. How people, especially guys, sometimes start relying on alcohol to socialize, to talk to women, whatever it may be. They get so used to this crutch that the idea of doing these things without it feels impossible. They haven't built that actual social muscle because they've always leaned on alcohol. Realizing how unhealthy that dependence is, even if it wasn't extreme in my case, was a big eye-opener during this period. I didn't want to need a substance just to connect with people. But once I got past those initial hurdles, maybe 2 to 3 weeks in, something shifted. The routine set in, and it actually started feeling easy, good, even. And the first major undeniable change I noticed was my sleep. Guys, I can't even explain it. It wasn't just better sleep, it was transformative. I wear a Whoop strap, obsessively tracking my sleep and recovery metrics. Look at this. Before the challenge, red recovery days weren't uncommon after a weekend. You can see right here, scrolling through a few months where I was probably just drinking on the weekends. During the 100 days, 0. Not a single red recovery day. My recovery score was consistently high, mostly green, sometimes yellow if I had to wake up early or some other reasons affected my sleep, but the baseline quality was just leagues better. I was waking up actually feeling rested. Remember that feeling from when you were a kid? Yeah, just like that. Also during this period, I read a book, Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep. He breaks down exactly how alcohol destroys your sleep quality. Even 1 or 2 drinks might help you fall asleep faster, but it fragments your sleep, decimates your REM sleep, crucial for learning, memory, emotional regulation, and suppresses deep sleep, which is vital for physical restoration and hormonal balance. You might think that you slept okay, but your brain and body didn't get what they needed. Walker points out that humans are terrible at judging their own sleep deprivation levels. You adapt to feeling subpar without even realizing it's because your sleep is compromised. And the science on poor sleep is actually terrifying once you dig into it. Walker links chronic insufficient sleep to practically every major health issue: increased risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, weakened immune system, even Alzheimer's. He presents data suggesting sleep deprivation significantly impacts insulin sensitivity, messing up your blood sugar regulation and making you feel hungry when you actually aren't. It affects your decision making, your mood, your reaction time. It's implicated as a massive factor in all-cause mortality. Getting consistent, high quality sleep isn't just a luxury, it's profoundly fundamental to health and longevity. And experiencing this firsthand was wild. That one change, consistent, high quality sleep, had this incredible knock on effect. I had more energy, obviously, but I also found myself naturally craving healthier foods. Making better decisions throughout the day felt easier. My productivity shot up. It was like my whole system was finally running optimally. Because its foundation, sleep, was solid. Honestly, even if nothing else changed, the sleep benefits alone made this 100% worthwhile. The next thing that hit me was how much time I suddenly had on my hands. It sounds cliche, but it's true. Think about it. Hours spent pre-gaming, being out, traveling to and from bars or parties. Then add in the hours the next day feeling slow, maybe hungover, recovering on the couch. That all adds up significantly. Suddenly, those hours were mine again. Weekends opened up, evenings felt longer. I could pour that reclaimed time into my Amazon business, into learning new things, into personal projects I'd been putting off. And here's the weird thing. For the first time and maybe ever, I actually caught up on everything. My notoriously long to-do list, it was empty. Now, I'm the kind of person who thrives on productivity, so I get this little dopamine rush from ticking things off. So facing a blank list felt unsettling, almost boring. It was like my brain and body weren't used to the level of efficiency. I had to literally figure out what to do with myself now that I wasn't constantly playing catch up or recovering. It was a strange but ultimately amazing problem to have, realizing how much bandwidth alcohol had been quietly consuming. This ties into the third big change. Mental clarity. It felt like a fog lifted up that I didn't even know was there. I could think more clearly, focus for longer stretches. But more than that, I had the mental space to zoom out and think about bigger picture stuff, my goals, my values, where I actually wanted to go in life. Before, my weeks often felt like this cycle. Build momentum Monday through Friday, then hit the weekend, drink, and lose some of that momentum and clarity, and spend Sunday and Monday recovering and repeat. It felt like one step forward, half a step back consistently. Removing alcohol broke that cycle. The momentum just kept building week after week. Projects got finished, ideas flowed more easily. It felt like my life was operating on a more continuous upward trajectory. And the shift led to a fundamental shift in my mindset. I realized that I'd fallen into the classic working for the weekend trap, grinding through the week, seeing Friday nights as this big reward, the stress relief valve. Quitting alcohol forced me to reevaluate that. Why wasn't I finding joy and relaxation during the week? I'm lucky. I genuinely enjoy my work, helping people sell on Amazon and running my own store. It's challenging and rewarding. I started focusing on making my weekdays just as enjoyable as the weekends, building in time for hobbies, exercise, seeing friends for coffee instead of cocktails. My baseline level of happiness and engagement through the entire week went up. It wasn't just about chasing a weekend release anymore, it was about creating a life that felt good every single day. Alcohol wasn't the stress reliever I thought. It was more like a temporary numbing agent that often made the underlying stress worse in the long run. Okay, here's something I actually did not expect at all. I actually started finding non-alcoholic drinks I liked. Before this, I was definitely in the what's the point camp. If I wasn't drinking alcohol, I'd have a water or some other health drink. But during the 100 days, I started experimenting, trying some non-alcoholic wines with my girlfriend, grabbing some athletic brews. And it clicked. It's not always about the alcohol itself. Sometimes it's about the ritual, the context, the familiar flavor. Having a cold beer on a hot LA day, a non-alcoholic version can scratch that itch surprisingly well. Having something special to sip on during a nice dinner, a decent NA wine works. It fulfilled that social and situational craving without any of the downsides. I could be out with friends, holding a can or glass, participating in the social ritual, but stay perfectly clear-headed and wake up feeling great the next day. I realized that these NA options weren't just pointless substitutes, they actually serve a purpose in bridging that gap between wanting the experience of a drink and not wanting the alcohol. They became a useful tool in my toolkit for navigating social situations without feeling left out or resorting to actual alcohol. The final big thing that I noticed was in my overall physique. During the time, I was also doing a diet challenge and getting in really good shape, and I found it really easy to shed off pounds that otherwise would have been a challenge. And I realized that calories from the alcohol do add up. Not only was it easier to eat healthy food, but shaving off those calories that I would have spent on drinking just gave me so much back towards my physique and looking better. And that's just a small thing, but I think it really made a big difference taking 100 days off in order to do this. All right, so 100 days are up. I feel fantastic. The sleep, the time, the clarity, the benefits were way more real and significant than my initial skepticism ever prepared me for. I genuinely did not think abstaining would make this big of a difference. The big question then, am I quitting alcohol forever? Probably not. And I say that honestly. Part of me definitely feels the appeal of saying I don't drink, wearing it like a badge of honor, and the pride I'd feel by saying that. But I still do appreciate the craft of a great cocktail, or the idea of a perfect margarita on a summer day, or sharing a bottle of wine on a date. Those things haven't disappeared. But what has definitely changed is my relationship with alcohol. My perspective is completely different. Binge drinking, the idea seems almost alien to me now. Knowing how good I feel without it, the incredible sleep, the mental sharpness, the productivity, why would I trade that in for a few hours of chemically induced fun, followed by a day or two feeling subpar? The cost-benefit analysis just doesn't make sense to me anymore. I know now with certainty that I don't need alcohol to socialize, to relax, or to have fun. I've experienced 100 days proving that to myself. So, going forward, any drinking will be a conscious choice, not a default habit or crutch. I'll be thinking about the occasion, how much I'm drinking, and especially how it might impact my sleep. That sleep quality is a non-negotiable. My limits are drastically different. My awareness is heightened. It's no longer about restriction, it's about informed decision making based on how I actually want to feel day to day. And the biggest lasting change is that feeling of not needing the weekend as some big boozy payoff. Enjoying the flow of the entire week is the new norm. Looking back, this 100-day challenge was one of the best things I could have done for myself, and the results were undeniable. If you're curious about your own relationship with alcohol, maybe you don't need to commit to 100 days. Maybe just try 14 or 30 and pay attention to how you feel. Maybe even journal it. And I think you'd be surprised at what you discover, even if you don't keep with it long term. Make sure to leave a like below if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more.